Okay. All right, I'm calling to order the Marin Municipal Water District Board meeting for September 15th, 2020. And I'm looking for a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I turned that off. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, it's a little scratchy in the background, Terry.
Yeah, I know. I'm turning it off right now. There we go. Apologize about that. I thought it was turned off. Okay, so for roll call, I would like to call Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and President Gibson.
Aye. What do we have by way of public comment, items that are not on the agenda?
We, President Gibson, we have, you've received only one, the board only received one email. I forwarded it to the board members and it will be posted afterwards. That's
Okay,
it.
good, thank you. And directors and general managers announcement. Ben, we'll start with you, the general manager's announcement.
I have no announcement tonight.
All right, thank you. Let's, Larry Bragman, do you have any announcements?
No, I don't.
Okay, Cynthia?
None for me, thanks.
Okay, and Larry?
No.
Russell, okay, and I have none myself. Thank you all. That takes us to our consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve our consent calendar?
Before you do, Jack, I've got a couple questions I wanted to ask Ben about his report. So could I just ask those questions now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that. The first question, Ben, is whether we are testing for the particulate from the fires.
In terms of our water,
Water quality, yeah.
um,
And if we're having any kind of fluctuation of any kind of, contaminants.
yeah, I believe Paul may be on and he can add to this that we're just doing our, not just, because it's rather extensive, regulatory required reporting that would catch the contaminants if they reached a measurable level. There's really not an indication that it would be a concern because it's just atmospheric deposition on a large body of water. Well, we could take another look at that and touch base with our colleagues and see if anyone else has found anything or what would be reasonable to look at. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Ben. We haven't seen any effects at the treatment plants in terms of particulate. Obviously, that's what the treatment plants are designed to do, is remove those particulates. But even though I think we've had quite a bit more smoke that we're used to, a lot of it remains airborne. And if you remember, there were a few days there where we had that really high haze where the smoke was up high and we didn't even smell the smoke. So we haven't seen any effects at the treatment plants at this point, Director Bragman.
Okay. I mean, I can tell you here where I am right near the watershed, there's a lot of deposition every morning, but
Yeah.
Compared to the volume of our lakes, I don't know if there's any real concern, but I think it might be worth at least calling around and seeing if anybody else has noticed anything or has any concerns. Because I did get a comment from somebody from the public about that.
Okay.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and there was an article in the paper, and it's about the generator at San Geronimo. There was an article a couple days ago in the IJ about PG&E looking to mitigate fall power shutoffs. And they said that PG&E has installed 600 sectionalizers, including 42 in Marin. So they claim they're devices that can limit the size of outages, so on and so forth. So have you talked to PG&E about our situation, and have you gotten any kind of information from PG&E about what we're doing?
Mike may know if we've engaged them directly. We are not looking forward to the next round of outages, but these separators will limit the extent. Certainly the treatment plant is in an area that's still subject to being on an outage, and the generator provides value for us well beyond the PSPS event. So my thought is we proceed, and we'll soon be going out. Maybe we've gone out to bid, and we'll be bringing the award of contract back. Mike, do you have any other information along those lines?
I haven't heard directly from PG&E, but I would agree that we have no backup power out at San Geronimo. So even despite PSPS events, we're still vulnerable out there to any type of power outage, and power in that area has always been questionable at times. So yeah, we would recommend still proceeding with the generator, if that's, Director Bragman, what you were asking about.
Well, I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm not really questioning it. I just think, the article raises some questions about, the scope, the size, the scale of what we're doing. If these sectionalizers actually would have any kind of mitigation on the risk of a power outage. So, it just kind of struck me, we're going into a pretty costly project, and I understand the value of having uninterrupted power out there. So
yeah, for me, Director Bragman, I think about seismic events, for example. I mean, really enhancing our overall resiliency and capacity to deliver water from our prime treatment plant. It does seem, when I read the article, and I did a number of them about the sectionalizers, I was thinking, oh, good, our admin building, isn't probably going to be out in the full Marin outage, that sort of thing. But we're still vulnerable, quite vulnerable in the area of the treatment plant.
yeah,
I think it goes well beyond that, Ben. As I have discussed with you, I've been harping on this subject for 16 years. I thought it was the biggest oversight that was made in the design of the plants was not to have standby generators. And you might remember the event, Larry, it's before your time on the board, but we had an owl that, for lack of better terms, committed suicide. And what he did, or she did, was to touch one wing to our 112 kV source and the other wing to the other 12 kV source, shorting them both out and knocking us out. We were within hours of running out of water because we had no ability to get the water out of San Geronimo over the hill. And, had we built the Blueberry Ridge tank, then this would be a different situation. But without that tank, which was above the height of the crest, without that tank, it is, in my opinion, absolutely essential that generators of the size they are be put into place at this location, because we have no way of getting the water out of there. We're just dead in the water, no pun intended.
I wanted to add something. Back at the end of July, we got registered with something called the PSPS portal. It's something that PG&E set up for emergency management, and it's only open to agencies such as ourselves, water utilities, federal, state, local emergency response offices, telecommunication, hospitals, transportation providers. So those agencies now have access to a portal that provides us with more detailed information on upcoming outages. So we did get some folks trained on how to access the portal, and we got registered into that towards the end of July.
All right.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. Did I get a motion for our consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay. Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and President Gibson.
Aye. That takes us to item number 6 in our water supply report for August.
Okay. Let's get this going here. Good evening, Paul Sellier, Operations Director, the monthly water supply for August. Tonight, we're going to just kick off a little bit with a discussion, very short taste and odor discussion before taking a look at our August production and supply. And I'm going to follow that up with a snapshot of our storage as of yesterday and a projection looking forward through next April. And we'll wrap up with a quick discussion on our water supply strategy so far. So taste and odor, obviously this time of year, September, October, is really the height of what we call taste and odor season. And you can kind of see that from last year's chart bar here in blue for August, where really we had a spike of of customer inquiries and complaints about the taste and odor of our water. This August, however, we've managed the situation a little better, and we have just 3 complaints for August. However, the system that we have some concern with is really our Alpine and Bontempi reservoirs. Those reservoirs, just briefly, are the way we operate them, they're linked. So Alpine will pump into Bontempi Reservoir, and from there will go to Bontempi Treatment Plant. And in Alpine, we have some increased numbers in taste and odor that we're finding through our lab analysis. And so we've stopped pumping from that reservoir into Bontempi. And of course, that's helping us, right, keep the water taste decent coming out of Bontempi. But there's a limit. Bontempi is a small reservoir with some 4,000 acre feet. So there's a limit to how long we can really do that. And maybe we can do it for another week or 2 or 3 at the most. And hopefully that will be long enough for us to sort of dodge this issue that's in Alpine. But given that we are in sort of what we call taste and odor season, there's no guarantee that the MIB goes away quietly in Alpine. So we could be in for a difficult couple of months through September, October, and into early November, but only time really will tell. So our strategy has been really to pull water from different reservoirs, trying to avoid this issue. It works well for Kent and Nicasio, and it works for Bontempi and Alpine to a lesser extent, just because we can't do it for as long. And of course, our recent hot weather, this may just excite the algae a little more, and of course, increase taste and odor in due course. So that's where we are with our taste and odor.
So Paul,
Yep.
could you just remind the public that these compounds, while they do impact the taste of the water, they don't have any health and safety impacts whatsoever?
Yeah, so they are, as the name implies, taste and odor compounds, and that's really all that they are. They just impart a taste and odor that's different than normal to our water. And in all respects, the water remains safe to drink and meets all of our drinking water quality standards. Thanks for that, Ben.
So Paul, before you go on, I think some dialogue back and forth with a customer in Mill Valley, very, very upset recently about taste and odor issues, and basically saving his receipts from having to buy bottled water. So I appreciate and I understand what you're saying about there not being health impacts, but that's not how people feel when they experience these things. So, at some point, not today, but I just want to, perhaps we can agendize this, how, I think we need a better way of talking to the public when these things happen, because they're not hearing us. And I don't know that I blame them. In fact, I don't blame them. When the water smells bad and it tastes bad, it's just not enough for us to just wave our hands and say, it's fine. And I do think we need to have a better protocol for addressing these concerns, because they're serious and they're real. And I think, people are very anxious. And I think it's great that we are having fewer of these things this year than we've had in the past. But, I'm sure you're familiar with the letters that I'm referring to, but I mean, these folks were really upset and, they felt they couldn't bathe, they couldn't eat, they couldn't, give the water to their children. I mean, those are real concerns.
Yes, I agree. And while there are just 3 complaints, we do take each of them, as you rightly point out, Director Kohler, very seriously. And yes, I think we should engage our customers in a better way than we did, certainly in that case in particular. But thank you for that.
Yeah, Cynthia has a good point, and it's also important to recognize these are the most common types of complaints in the water business. Taste and odor. It's the thing that you can recognize immediately with no analytical ability other than your nose or your mouth. So, I think you're right on, Cynthia. We need to figure out a way to communicate where we're going and where we're going to go. Maybe we could have an index or something published, Paul, that gives, we bought that GCMS to get ahead of this curve, and we could show some kind of level of the geosmin or something like that in the water, and then indicate that these are, typical odor producing things. They're totally harmless, but they do impact taste and odor to the water or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are working, Jeannie and I are working on some messaging. I think Ben may have shared that with you to try to get out somewhat in front of this. We still are, even though we've had the 3 complaints and there are some unhappy customers to be sure, we can still get out in front of this and provide them information that they need. But it is a difficult issue, very difficult.
I remember, Paul, tell me if you know anything about this, but a number of years ago where somebody in the engineering department had told me that there's X number of our customers who are identified by us and who we communicate that have a specific sensitivity to, and I don't mean it in a negative way, it's just they pick it up when other people don't, and that we would occasionally contact them ourselves and say, are you getting anything by way of taste and odor? Is that process still going on? Or do you know anything about that?
So that was our taste and odor panel that would have been, sort of informally polled, right, by the water quality manager or lab manager.
Right.
And it reflects exactly what Director Russell said, and that is that your nose can be particularly sensitive to this stuff. And in fact, we have someone in Fairfax who used to work here, Bob Castle, who is very sensitive, and he can almost smell down to 2 parts per trillion.
Wow.
So people are very sensitive, can be very sensitive to these tastes and odors. Yeah. But that's what that is. And that taste and odor panel was sort of replaced by the analytical instrument that Director Russell mentioned. So we're able to measure these compounds down to about 1 part per trillion.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I can always come back to this if there are any other questions. So moving on very quickly then with our reservoir storage. From this slide, really, we finished August with about 96% of average storage for the state. So we're tracking pretty well with our average storage level at the end of August. Our water production numbers for financial year 2021 are very similar to last year. And our imported water production reflects our ability, our slight increase in take that we're pulling water from Sonoma. And again, in a different format here, August reflected in the green bar shows just a slight increase over the prior year. And this is that rebound that we've seen consistent with the rest of the year. This is similarly reflected in our running 12-month average. And while it's still trending upwards, I don't know if it's my imagination or not, but I kind of see that curve turning. And I'm kind of hoping that it's going to continue to do that, which will mean we'll have peaked at that point. But stay tuned for that one.
Mhm.
Our total reservoir storage, again, graphically in the green line here is where we are, and the black line just above it. So we're tracking pretty exactly within 4% of that.
Mhm.
And of course, we're in much better shape than we were in 90-91 and 76-77.
Mhm.
Our snapshot then, as of yesterday, in the table here on the left are our reservoirs. And again, 96% of normal storage or 69% of maximum storage capacity. And over on the right here is the Lake Sonoma storage, and it's showing 75% of capacity. And they're also 95, I think, percent of normal for this time of year. So very similar tracking in terms of water storage. Looking at our planned water purchases, July and August, of course, are in the books, and this was what we were able to do. We didn't quite hit our targets of 750 acre feet. That had to do with some construction in July and the difficulties with fires up north, where Sonoma asked us to slow down a little bit. So we're still projecting, just as a refresher here, the gray bars would be what we had historically taken, our 5,300 acre feet minimum take or pay. And the blue bars here on top of the gray reflecting our revised strategy to accelerate our purchases, so that come January, where the chart changes into the brick kind of pattern, this reflects where we would have finished our normal allotment of 5,300. We would be in a position to continue to take more water should that continue to be dry. Our projections, we've seen this chart a few times now, so quickly again, the black line is where we've been, if you like, and the ochre line is our projection to November. And then we break out into the three lines here, purple, green, and blue, reflecting 150% of rainfall, normal rainfall or average, excuse me, and then 50% of average. And that runs out through next April. So in summary, then, we are in taste and odor season. It is a seasonal thing, and it is temporary. They will dissipate. It does take some time. And we have limited tools in our arsenal to deal with it. Our water storage is tracking on average, and we're in a decent position for this time of year. Our strategy has been to front load our purchases of water, continue through water use efficiency, our demand management. And of course, we're continuing to watch demand and storage levels. The weather outlook, I hesitate to say it's a typical summer pattern because the last few weeks have been anything but typical, but basically dry and warm going forward. That concludes my presentation tonight.
All right, I have just a quick question. I've got a few comments from people and one letter that says we in our district are in a drought, and we're not letting people know that. We're not saying drought. Now, I understand, I think from your report, that our water supply is good, healthy, but that our rainfall has been lighter than, that's problematic. So question, I guess, do we define drought as weakness in our supply, our quantity of water, or do we measure that by rainfall? And what triggers an acceleration of communication to people? Hey, folks, we're in a drought. Be careful. Think drought.
Yeah, our present water supply or water shortage contingency plan really targets storage levels. And that's in fact what you see across the state. What's making a lot of news today are, as you point out, Director Gibson, the lower than normal rainfall.
Mhm.
And the climatologists refer to this as drought conditions, as
Mhm.
distinct from drought.
Yeah.
The other thing to note about these conditions is how quickly they set on. Right, as of the beginning of the water year last October, none of California, or very little, 4% maybe, was in any kind of drought condition. And today, we're looking maybe for all of California, conditions-wise, that rainfall, it's closer to 80%.
Mhm.
But throughout the state, when you look at the state-managed reservoirs, their water supply is also doing fairly well despite these conditions.
Mhm.
So the short answer is storage is how we presently define drought.
Mhm. Okay. At what point do we change our communication strategy to emphasize drought? Just when the storage gets at a certain below level?
At this point, yes, that's what would trigger the water shortage contingency planning, which triggers those messages,
Right.
potentially rationing and that sort of a thing. But
Well,
those
we have talked about trying to link what folks are hearing on drought with our conservation messaging that I think will strengthen conservation activities. So we'll benefit from whatever everyone is hearing in terms of drought from a rainfall standpoint. So, and I have heard there's a little confusion on that. So I think we can bring those together in a way that'll make sense to the public and meet our interest to have folks use water wisely.
Mhm.
I mean, aren't we kind of delaying the drought declaration by sort of purchasing our water now?
Well, right. We're positioning ourselves well. We would not be making a formal drought declaration until our storage hits a level much lower than we would be, even if we weren't accelerating the water we're getting from Sonoma Water. But I do think we're positioning ourselves well for the event were we to have another dry season coming up. We'll be able to accelerate the take than our kind of
Yeah,
previous
no,
strategy we've been doing.
But I mean, it's kind of artificially expanding our storage at the moment.
Right. I'd say it is stretching our supply for sure, and it's positioning us to maximize the take that we
Right.
may choose to do in January.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I get that.
I believe, relatively consistent with our conservation message. I mean, that's whether we have a good water supply and we have plenty of rain, we still promote conservation. We always have, and I'm sure we always will. But that, to a certain extent, lulls people into a certain level of comfort. When we use the word drought, it gets a reaction in our community just because of the historical circumstances that we've gone through a couple of times. So people understand drought and react positively to it. I mean, it enhances, I believe, conservation almost immediately. So we might rethink at exactly what point I'm not saying we overuse it because that's not good either, but I think we might give a little thought to when is the precise point in time when we start to use the D word.
And
I think that's an
it's
excellent point, Jack.
And I think some of the communication some of us have had using the term drought conditions
Yeah,
now start to get us there.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions of Paul here? Okay, this information item, so no vote is required. Move on. I'm sorry.
President Gibson, I just want to let you know that there were no public comment. There was
Oh,
no public
good.
comment.
Thank you. Item number 7, expanded commuter benefits program. And I guess, Ben, this is you.
Actually, it's Vicky Garay, who's
Oh.
our HR manager, is going to give this item.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board. I'm Vicky Garay. I've been mentioned from the HR department, and staff is requesting that the board approve an expansion of our current commuter benefit program to include a bike reimbursement and also a mass transit tax deduction, so pre-tax deduction for purchases of passes to use mass transit, which include buses, ferries, and trains, et cetera. And so with that pre-tax, we hope to have an employer match of up to $75 to encourage the usage of the program. And we hope that the program will contribute to our positive work environment by giving people a nicer way to commute to work, or a less stressed way to commute to work, and also a tax benefit. Of course, we know our current environment now, and so we're looking to launch this program in January if it's approved. So today I'm here to ask if the board would approve our expanded commuter benefit program.
Yeah, I just briefly, it's just one of many strategies that we're looking at to attract and retain good employees. And of course, it's difficult for employees to live in the service area with the housing costs, and many of our employees, and probably a higher number going forward, will live in the North Bay. And this allows us to really maximize that regional investment in the SMART train and provide an incentive for folks to use that and continue to attract folks from up north.
Right.
You have to get some bike racks.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, a lot of our employees experience a long commute, and this would definitely be a good retention strategy.
Yeah.
And goes a long way.
Okay. On those employees who do take the transit, particularly from the North Bay, how do they get from the station to the office?
From the transit center in San Rafael?
Yeah, assuming that's where they come in. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a TransPay bus from the East Bay to the transit center, and then there's one bus from the transit center and it stops right and behind the main office on Tamil Vista Boulevard, or on the opposite side of Tamil Vista Boulevard.
Okay.
And
now we have the Larkspur station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to take the train all the time, and I would take it to the Larkspur station, and it's just a short walk to the office, and it was just wonderful.
Okay.
You can bring your bike on the train too.
Absolutely.
So.
Right, and then now there's a bike lane on the bridge as well. Well, not a lane, but a passenger, a fairway for employees to, not employees, for people to ride their bikes across the bridge. Yeah. I'm just thinking about employees only.
Yeah.
It's a little funky. I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see people there. And a few of our employees do use that bridge to ride their bikes. Yeah.
You are going to need bike racks at some point.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions on this item? Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and President Gibson.
Aye.
And just letting you know, there were no public comments.
Thank you. Thank you. I keep forgetting that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, award of contract 1932 for Forestry Service Professional Tree Care Company.
Sean, are you giving this?
Yep. Good evening, board members. Sean Horn, Watershed Resources Manager. The item before you is the award of contract number 1932 for Forestry Services. The recommended action for this item is to approve resolution 8599 to execute a 2-year forestry service contract with Professional Tree Care. On August 12th, 2020, the district released a notice inviting bidders to submit proposals for a 2-year forestry service contract. The district received 4 qualified bids on August 28th and selected Professional Tree Company as the lowest qualified bidder. Staff is recommending that the board approve resolution 8599, which awards the contract number 1932 to Professional Tree Care Company in the amount of $1,304,000. The district has used similar contracts over the past 5 years to complete the Resilient Forest Research Project and then to start scaling up the forestry restoration work under the BIFIP. This is a key contract for us to continue that work. In this last fiscal year, we were able to utilize an existing contract we had for the similar services that expired in June to implement 70 acres of forestry restoration work in the vicinity of Porteous Meadows, where we were building off of our wide area fuel break along Lagunitas Rock Springs Road. So this work is key to us continuing to implement on that scale and to ensure that we can create a more resilient watershed through the implementation of our biodiversity fires and fuels plan. And I'll just remind the board and the general public that at the watershed committee meeting on Thursday, we'll be overviewing the annual report of the biodiversity fires and fuels plan and all of the work that was completed in preparation for this year's wildfire season. So with that, I'll take any questions that the board might have on the contract.
Okay, well, first of all, let me say congratulations on keeping this type of work going through the coronavirus, and all the obstacles we're facing. It's absolutely critical stuff. And if we didn't know that a few months ago, we certainly know it now. Have we used a Professional Tree Care Company before?
We have not had a contract directly with them, but they are a reputable company throughout the Bay Area. They're based out of Berkeley, California.
Okay.
They're a fairly large tree service company, and we're confident in their capabilities.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
What was the range of bids that came in, Sean?
Yeah, so this was the lowest bid. The next one was $95,000 above it. And then the highest bid was $200,000 above this bid. So 1.5 million.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any public comment on this item?
Yes, we do. Larry Minikes. Hold on.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I just jumped from MCL to this, and literally it was for item 8. And the perfect timing, Sean. The only question I have is this specific to Lagunitas Road and Bolinas Road and Rock Springs. That's the specific contract for. That's my only question. Thank you.
Yeah, so do you want us to answer that? The
Yes,
contract
yep.
will be watershed wide. There's areas that we have identified where this forestry restoration work would be most beneficial. We've actually done a GIS exercise looking at the areas that are most accessible, as well as the areas that have been most impacted by sudden oak death. And those are the vicinities of the watershed where we'll be targeting the work. And then we'll also be looking to build off of our existing fuel break infrastructure to have the largest benefit from a wildfire perspective, to influence the behavior of fire if one was to come across the watershed.
Yeah.
Thank you. My apologies. I'm not supposed to ask a question, but you allowed it, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. We got comments already. I guess we're ready for a roll call vote.
Who made the motion?
I think we did. No, maybe we didn't. Can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, now a roll call.
Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and President Gibson.
Aye. Number 9 on our agenda, award professional services agreement to Environmental Science Associates for the Lagunitas Creek Watershed Enhancement Plan.
Okay. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members. Aaron Fulton here with the engineering group. I'm actually here tonight to discuss the Lagunitas Creek Watershed Enhancement Plan, and specifically to request that the board authorize the general manager to execute a professional services contract with Environmental Science Associates for an amount not to exceed $300,000 for restoration planning and design services. To give you a little background on the particular project that we're talking about tonight, I want to let you know that district staff actually applied for and was awarded from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife under the Prop 68 Rivers and Streams program. The grant will contribute $300,000 towards development of the Lagunitas Creek Watershed Enhancement Plan. And the real purpose of the plan is to expand upon all the great work that we've done already and essentially chart out potential future phases of restoration actions that could address salmonid life cycle limiting factors along Lagunitas Creek and its tributaries, many of which are related to low survival between the egg and the juvenile stage. Attachment 1 to this particular staff report provides a map of the proposed study area, and you'll see that it includes the main stem of Lagunitas Creek from Peters Dam to the southern extent of Samuel P. Taylor. So we're talking about the upper portion of Lagunitas Creek. And it also includes portions of San Geronimo Creek where there are publicly owned parcels, of which some we own and some are held by other entities, where we will be considering looking at potential restoration opportunities.
Mhm.
The project will result in 30% design alternatives for potential restoration actions in the study area on attachment 1. And it includes significant outreach with the Lagunitas TAC to develop those potential actions. To support development of the plan, district staff distributed a request for proposals to 14 firms with experience in natural resource management and restoration planning. We received 3 qualified proposals and interviewed all 3 teams using a criteria that weighted their responsiveness to the RFP in their proposal form, their understanding of the proposed work, the grant process, their planning and design approach, the experience of their team and their personnel, and especially their ability to coordinate with an active, engaged community, and also their demonstrated ability to complete projects of a similar size in the region that we're at. So based on the combined evaluation of the proposals and also the video interviews, staff has determined that Environmental and Science Associates, ESA, is the most qualified firm for the plan. Total project cost for completing the project is $450,000. The district has an in-kind labor match of $150,000 over the 2-year project duration. And with that, I'll take any questions anyone might have about kind of the scope of work or the project itself.
Any questions?
Have we identified any projects sort of tentatively?
No, we haven't. And I think the key to this particular project is to essentially take a step back and identify where the opportunities are. So we've scoped out the work in the grant scope of work, that is, to really take a step back, engage the TAC, identify where those opportunities exist, and not kind of have our blinders on moving forward. So really we're looking at all potential opportunities in that study area, and they can range and scale from, maybe they're really small strategic things that district staff could do like we've done in the past, and also looking at larger scale restoration opportunities, with the overall goal is to have essentially a palette of options moving forward that we could potentially get grant funding to implement.
Well, I'm glad you're going to be reaching out to the TAC. There's a lot of resources there, so that's good. That's getting baked into the proposal. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about this one. I think this is a good move.
Any other board questions or comments? Any public comment on this item?
At this time, I do not see any.
Okay, I guess we're ready for a motion on this item.
Yes.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell,
Aye.
and President Gibson.
Aye.
Thank you.
That takes us to number 10, appointment of our general counsel and approval of the general counsel's at-will employment agreement.
President Gibson, I had meant to ask you if you wanted to take this, or would you prefer me to do it?
Probably you should do it, I think. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, though.
Okay. The recommendation is to appoint Molly McLean as the district's general counsel and approve the attached at-will employment agreement. And as you all know, we did a nationwide search, interviewed a number of highly qualified candidates, and Ms. McLean was determined to be the best fit for this position by the board. And in my role as GM, I'm enthusiastically bringing this recommendation forward. I think she's going to be a great fit for the organization and such a high degree of competency and experience to this position that is so important to us. So with that.
Okay. Any board have any questions on this item? Okay, hearing none. Is there any public comment on this item?
I do not see any public comments.
Okay, well, congratulations to Ben and to all of us for what I think was a very thorough, well done project to get to this point. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I guess we're ready, and no public comment. I guess we're ready for a roll call vote.
We have a motion?
No, we do not.
Wow. Okay.
We need to make the motion.
Good catch. Good. All right. Larry, you're making the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. A dual second. That's good. All in favor. Roll call vote.
Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell.
Aye.
And President Gibson.
Aye. Number 11, Resolution 8602, updating job titles covered by the district's unrepresented employee resolution.
Yeah, so this is a follow-on item from item 10. Given that now the general counsel is under.
You're breaking up there.
We can't hear you well.
Yeah.
So you can't hear me?
Well,
You're
It's
underwater.
garbled.
Vicky, can you take this
Ben,
item?
if I can take this item? Ben, I can take this item for you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you again, Board of Directors, for your attention. We'd like to ask if we could, we are asking to approve or adopt Resolution 8602, which is Resolution 8214, which covers unrepresented employees for the district, and it contains the current terms and conditions of employment for positions. The resolution that we're asking you to adopt merely updates the job titles for those positions that are represented, and also removes the general counsel, as Ben tried to mention here, is the general counsel will be represented under a contract, and through that contract extended the terms and conditions of the Resolution 8214. So we ask if you would approve this amendment to Resolution 8214 through 8602.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any board questions or comments?
Nope.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment?
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, we're ready for the roll call, I think.
Director Bragman,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Russell.
Aye.
And President Gibson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, number 12 is invoking the district's emergency contracting provisions, authorizing the general manager to execute all contracts necessary regarding the Porteous tunnel pipeline.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Gibson. Yeah, I'll be leading the discussion on this tonight. So tonight's recommendation is that the board approve Resolution 8597, invoking the emergency contracting provisions to replace the Porteous tunnel pipeline. Terry's going to help me here. If you could move to the next. Thank you, Terry. So I have a short presentation here tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Porteous tunnel history and the location. We'll talk about the pipelines that are in the tunnel and also the leak that we discovered a couple weeks ago. We'll talk about the emergency replacement, what we're planning to do and why we think this is an emergency. And then finally, we'll end with the recommendation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Porteous Tunnel was built in 1917 as part of the water system to convey water from Alpine up through Pine Mountain Tunnel and down into Phoenix Lake to bring water to Central and Southern Marin. On the right, there is a photo of the west tunnel of Porteous, the west entrance to Porteous Tunnel. And the fact that you can see it is indicative of the work that the watershed team has been doing out there, because when we first came out there, it was quite overgrown with brush. But it's been used as a conduit for conveying water from Alpine Dam to Phoenix Lake, to conveying the pipelines that go through it. So the tunnel itself is about 240 feet long. It was originally built about 6 feet high by 6 feet wide. It's now just a couple feet high. It's been filled in at the bottom, and it sits below about a 45-foot ridge. And I'll show you exactly where it's located on the next slide, please. So the tunnel is located at the intersection of 5 corners, and the typical way to get there if you're riding your bike is to go up Bolinas Fairfax Road, and before you hit Sky Oaks Road, you turn left on Concrete Pipe Road, which is shown up there at the top of the drawing. Thank you, Terry. And then the pipeline actually follows Concrete Pipe Road.
Sorry.
It's a very nearly flat road. And then you get to the intersection of Shaver Grade and Concrete Pipe Road and Deer Creek Trail. And there you find yourself at 5 corners. So this is an aerial shot of 5 corners where the tunnel is located. So again, we have Concrete Pipe Road coming from the bottom of the screen. That will take you all the way to Bolinas Fairfax Road. And then Shaver Grade Fire Road, which on the right will take you over to Phoenix Lake. And then on the left, we have Deer Park Fire Road. So the west entrance of the tunnel is down near the bottom of the screen in the dark vegetated area. You can't really see it, but I wanted to show show you what the conditions are like out there. It's quite vegetated. Then the tunnel proceeds under 5 corners, and then the east entrance is up near the top of the photograph here. So let's go to the next slide, please, Terry. So Porteous Tunnel right now has 2 pipelines in it. So the first was installed in 1919. Again, it's the original 24-inch concrete pipe that went all the way from Alpine through Pine Mountain Tunnel, through Porteous Tunnel, and down to Phoenix Lake. And it's shown in this drawing here. It's actually on the north side of the tunnel, but it's represented by the yellow and white hash pipeline. So the pipeline leaked quite badly, and so the district quickly replaced it just 7 years later with a 26-inch steel pipe that went in the exact same location from Alpine all the way to Phoenix. And the 1919 concrete pipeline was abandoned. And then in 2006 and 2008, the district did 2 pipeline replacement projects. It was actually a seismic upgrade project where we installed a 30-inch pipeline, which is shown here on the left side of the photograph, a 30-inch welded steel pipeline to replace the 1926 pipeline. But it actually tied into the 1926 pipeline right before entering the Porteous Tunnel. And then on the right side of the photograph, the district, we tied into the 1926 pipeline with a new 30-inch welded steel pipe. So we have 2 new pipes coming in and out of the tunnel, but within the tunnel, we have the original 1926 pipeline still in use. Okay, Terry, if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is what the tunnel looks like. We're again looking at the west entrance to the tunnel. On the left side of the photograph is the original 1919 concrete pipe. And on the right side, you see the original, the 1926 steel pipe, but you can also see the 2006 steel pipe where it tied into the 1926 pipe. And the 1926 steel pipe, that's the one that's leaking inside the tunnel. And you can actually see water coming out of the 1919 concrete pipe. And that water's flowing, the leak we estimate is flowing at about 40 gallons per minute. This pipeline, the 2006 steel pipeline tying into the 1926 pipe, it conveys water from the San Geronimo treatment plant up to Ross Reservoir and then down into the Ross Valley. It actually ties into a pipeline from Bon Tempe downstream of the Porteous tunnel. So the two pipes come together, and then the two treatment plants are able to provide potable water to the Ross Valley. Next slide, please. So this is the same view of Porteous Tunnel, just a little bit closer. And you can see on the left side is the 1919 concrete pipe. And then on the right, you can kind of see the 1926 steel pipe. But you can see the tunnel has started to cave in. And the pipeline, the leaking 1926 pipeline is just inaccessible. We can't get to it. And not only is it inaccessible through the tunnel, but also it's under 45 feet of grade. We have a number of concerns with the 1926 pipeline. We're concerned that it could be prone to further damage. We're not exactly sure what caused it to start leaking, but it's possible that the caving in of the tunnel might have led to it starting to leak. And if the tunnel were to continue to do that, would the leak, would it be exacerbated? We're also worried about possible erosion from the water leaking out of the tunnel. And then we're concerned about the water loss. The 40 gallons per minute is almost 60,000 gallons per day. And we like to mitigate water loss anytime we can do that. The other factor here is that the rain season is quickly approaching. And if we were to conduct the replacement of this project under a normal time frame, we likely wouldn't get out there for another 3 or 4 months. And that would put us right in the middle of the rain season, and this site will likely be a fairly muddy mess at that time. So we feel that replacing the pipeline is urgent, and we need to do this as quickly as we can. So next slide, please. So there's a couple ways that we're looking at replacing the pipeline. The first one, that's one possible way of doing it is to do pipe bursting. And that's illustrated by this schematic in the upper right of the photo. And basically what we would do is use the 1926 pipe, the old pipe, as a guide for what's called a busting head. And we'd pull that through the 1926 pipe, and we'd pull the new 30-inch pipe behind it and tie it into the 30-inch welded steel pipe that we installed in 2006. And we'd do that on the west entrance and also on the east entrance, and thereby replacing the 1926 pipe with a substantial pipe that'll last 100 years, just like the new pipes that we've installed. The second way would be to do horizontal directional drilling. And basically what we would do here is drill a borehole from the east entrance to the west. We would pull a new pipe through the borehole and then tie it into the 30-inch welded steel pipe that we installed back in 2006 and then in 2008. So these are two options that we're looking at as far as replacing the leaking pipe. So the next steps for us are we're going to meet with prospective contractors that have experience in both types of replacement methods. We're going to procure proposals from them, and we'll be executing a contract and conducting the pipeline replacement work as soon as we can. And when that's done, we're going to pressure grout the tunnel to prevent further cave-ins. So the need for the emergency replacement here is that we're interested in mitigating the ongoing water loss as soon as we can. We're also interested in preventing any further erosion from happening out there, and also erosion that could possibly damage the road. And then we're concerned about the condition of the 100-year-old pipe that's leaking and currently in use. Is it prone to further damage? It's possible, and we want to replace it as soon as we can. And we want to do this work before rainfall and runoff start to degrade the site and we're no longer able to do the work. Next slide, please. Thank you. So tonight we're recommending that we proceed with replacement of the leaking Porteous tunnel pipeline. We're asking that the board approve resolution number 8597, which will allow us to do this work expeditiously. And it also will invoke the district's emergency contracting provisions found in District Code Section 2.90.055A. And this resolution directs the general manager to execute all contracts and proceed with the replacement project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, assuming approval here, when would you anticipate being able to start work, and how long do you think the job would take?
We anticipate being able to start probably by the end of the month or early next month, and we think it'll take about 4 weeks to complete the work.
Okay.
How do you intend to make the decision on what you're going to do?
Likely will be price. Yeah, we'll get prices from both, and from contractors that do both, and then most likely price, whoever can do it for the least cost.
And it seems to me it might make sense, Mike. It's a very intriguing project. It might make sense to send a camera through there.
So actually, Larry, we sent a camera through the 1919 pipe, and that pipe is in good condition. So if we do go with the pipe bursting method, what we would do is install a smaller diameter pipe and the 1919 pipe and use that as a temporary bypass so that we'd still have water flowing while we were pipe bursting the 1926 steel pipe. So yes, we did TV it, and it is usable for this purpose. Thank you.
That's interesting. I was actually thinking about sending it through the tunnel above grade, to see what the tunnel looks like.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do that because the tunnel is caved in.
You think it's caved, unpassable?
Yes.
Because then I wonder how you're going to pressure route it. That's where I'm headed is, I don't see how you're going to get the grout to flow if you got to.
Yes, we'll likely have to do that from above.
Drill down.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, it's a great project, and I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
I do not see any public comments.
Okay.
Mike, does the pressure grout, are you going to fill the tunnel with cement? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
So no more tunnel.
No more cave in.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. I guess we're ready for a roll call vote.
Director Bregman?
Aye.
Director Kohler? Director Russell?
Aye.
And President Gibson?
Aye.
Also, President Gibson, before we get to the next item, which is the last item, is it possible that we could hear from our new appointed General Council member?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah, that'd be very good.
Molly.
Hello, Molly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. I've been watching the meeting. I know it's been a long night, so I'll be quick. I just wanted to extend my extreme gratitude to the board for their trust and confidence. I'm very excited to be taking on this position and joining the team here in Marin. I want to extend an invitation to the board and of course staff to get in touch with me. My official start date is October 12th, and hopefully we'll have email and phone set up soon. So please reach out. Questions, information that you think I need, I welcome it all. So thanks very much and have a good night.
Well, welcome aboard. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Molly, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
All right, that was good. Let's see, we're on item number 13 then.
Last item.
Yeah. Future agenda meetings.
Yes, so nothing has changed from when the staff report went out. So if there are any questions from the board, I'll be happy to answer them.
No, I see the annual retreat is still on track for September 25th. Okay, so obviously that'll be virtual, which is a shame, but it is what it is. So, yeah. Okay. All right.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, good night. Meeting adjourned.
Take care. See you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Good night, Jack.
Good night. Thank you all.